to go to chapter 13 and verse 20. Proverbs is one of my favorite books, and it's just full of wisdom and information, and there's something in the book of Proverbs for just about every subject that you could ever cover. But today, I want to go to chapter 13 and to the 20th verse. It simply says, very briefly, "He that walketh with wise men shall be wise, but a companion of fools shall be destroyed." And I want to talk to you this morning very briefly, well, not very briefly, but I'll try to keep it kind of short, on toxic influence, toxic people, and when to cut ties with those people and those influences. Right. Lord Jesus, I'm asking you to anoint my words and to anoint the ears of those that are here today and those that are on the internet listening to us. Lord, help me to get this across in a way that will not be offensive, Lord, but will enlighten people, my God, and show them, my Lord, what is needed in their life. In the name of Jesus, I pray. You may be seated. Thank you for standing. And I just want to say this afternoon, there are people that come into our lives at times that we may enjoy their company, we may even like them, but sometimes they can be very toxic to our life.
Yes,
and our walk with God.
That's true.
Both spiritually and physically. These people are most often ruled by selfishness and spite, and they usually drain you instead of encouraging you. They're the type of people that are often seemingly addicted to self-righteousness and rash judgment, and they frequently fight with people instead of enjoying and appreciating them. And many times they're jealous of healthy people's peace and family and friendships, and spend much of their time and efforts trying to bring people down to their level of misery rather than blessing others with joy and encouragement. People in your lives, have you ever been around someone that when you walked away from them, you were just like, oh my goodness, I'm so glad to be out of their company. They just exhaust me. Those are people that sometimes we need to label them as toxic people in our life and begin to try and understand how to deal with them in a way that does not discourage and bring us down.
Right.
They often want to control you, and it may feel as though they just want you to stop being who you are and be who they want you to be. And I'm going to talk to you about 3 ways to identify these people this morning. Not every toxic person is going to exhibit all 3 of these elements in their life, but they will all usually excel in at least one of these traits. And the first one is a murderous spirit, spiritually. These are people that are always attempting to cause you to fall. They're always tempting you to do something that you know you shouldn't be doing. If you have a problem with drugs or alcohol and you walk around somebody and they are trying to offer you drugs or alcohol, they're toxic. Right. Don't go around them.
That's right. Amen.
These are people that don't like to be alone, and when they're doing things that they know they shouldn't be doing, they seek you out and try to cause you to fall and do whatever it is that they are doing, because misery always loves company.
Right.
Toxic people are not just difficult, they're not just sinful, but they constantly create chaos in other relationships around them. There are people that I know that no matter what's going on around them, everybody else could be having a good time and they're going to be upset. Nothing is ever right with their life. Nothing is ever right with them. And they're known more for being known for what they are against more than what they are for. I know people that I know everything that they're against, but I don't know very many things that they're for. They're unwilling to simply disagree with you, but rather they want you to be quiet and to hush up so that you can hear what they want. They're always talking about other people and what other people have done wrong and what their faults are, so that you don't focus any light and any attention on what they're doing wrong and what their faults are. I know people that absolutely, when they call me, I know exactly what they're going to say. And for 30 minutes to 2 hours, these people can call me, and I've heard it all 50 times before, but it's the same thing. They never let go of it. They're always upset, and they're always trying to murder someone else's reputation and someone else's good. The second is a controlling nature. These are the people that try to make you feel guilty for not doing what they want you to do. You ever have somebody tell you, well, if you were a good Christian, you would, do this. What kind of a Christian are you? You're supposed to be forgiving. You're supposed to try and help the poor. And I had a young man that used to come to this church and occasionally still does, but he would ask people for money, or he would tell them to pass the offering plate. We should be passing the offering plate to take up something for him. And I've given this man money. I've given him groceries. I've taken him, meat out of my freezer and groceries out of my cabinet. But it's never enough. It's always something. It's always somebody else's fault. And it's always a bullying attitude and a controlling spirit. And he's just toxic. These are people that for their own gain try to manipulate you into being what they want you to be so that they can get something from you.
Right.
Their focus is never on inspiring others to give their highest allegiance to God, but it's on trying to get someone else to live so that it pleases them or agrees with whatever they are wanting and whatever they are doing. Proverbs 22 and 24 through 25 says, make no friendship with angry men, and with a furious man do not go, lest you learn his ways, and it set a snare for your soul. And that brings us to the third, and that's a heart of hate. There are people that just hate everything. They just rage about everything. They're always upset.
That's true.
It doesn't matter how life goes, they're not happy. And no matter how much you do for them, it's never enough.
Right.
And no matter who they're around or who they're talking about, they've always been done wrong. It's always about me, and this person did this to me, and that person did this to me, and they don't get along with that person. But it's always everybody else's fault. I have to tell you, if you have a problem with this person, and you have a problem with this person, and you have a problem with that person, but nobody else has a problem with each other, it's going to be your fault. Just face it, you're the problem. These people often lack empathy and shame, and trying to appeal to them in a normal way does not work with them. I know people that I've preached to. I have preached my guts out. I've counseled, I have prayed, I have talked, I have taken them to dinner, I've given, and they never change because the normal way of dealing with people doesn't work with them. They exhibit anger and rage and malice and slander and foul language. I've stood people up in church before and said, don't ever do this again. Don't ever say to me, excuse my language, Pastor, and then throw up in my ear for the next 30 minutes. Just don't do it anymore. Fred might have been here when I did that. I don't know. I don't remember who all was here. But they become so focused on what it is that they're upset about and what they're upset with and raging against and what they hate and what they oppose that they lose sight of what they love and what they're actually for. And so we as Christians need to be ready to recognize a toxic person and be willing to call out the toxicity for what it really is.
Sure.
Too many of us try to avoid conflict with toxic people. And I have to tell you, if you always focus on not doing anything, at the end of life you will have done nothing. There's nothing wrong with labeling someone as a toxic person as long as you're not trying to tear them down. You label them so that you can figure out how to help them. For every minute that someone tells lies on you and are toxic to you, you should be spending hours telling others the truth about Jesus. Don't react to a toxic person. That's what causes them to ramp it back up. It just feeds. They feed on your toxicity. Don't be distracted or even defend yourself, because this will give them something to rage about and something to feed on. Don't reciprocate that, because they will direct it, their toxicity, they'll just turn around and direct it back towards you. Many times learning how to handle toxic people is more about preserving your mission in God than it is about defending yourself. You don't have to defend yourself to toxic people because it's not going to do any good. They're still going to try to tear you down. They're still going to try to get you to do those things that you don't need to be doing. They're toxic to you. If you're trying to get away from drugs or alcohol or pornography or whatever it is, don't hang out with people that do that. And when they come around, don't welcome them into your life.
Right.
Anytime you're trying to do the right thing, you're going to be attacked for it by somebody or someone or something. We need to avoid getting distracted. In most cases, our job is not to defend ourselves, it's to fulfill God's agenda in our lives and for our lives.
Right. Sure.
Don't search them out. Don't search out toxic people. You hear of someone that you used to know that you hung out with that were toxic, don't search them out. They'll find you sooner or later, soon enough. Give yourself enough time to get strong enough that you can resist them. Look for reliable people in your life. I told some people today, I said, look, stop hanging out with people that do the things that have brought you down and brought you into the jail. Stop hanging out with those people and start making some new friends. Come be my friend. I told him, I said, I'll guarantee if you're my friend, you're not going to get tempted to do drugs around me. I said, if we're out in the middle of Baffin Bay on a fishing boat, I guarantee you can't escape because I'm going to call you out if you're doing something stupid. And you're not going to be able to get away from me. So come hang out with me for a little while. Come hang out with somebody that's a good influence. People that are good influences in your life and can help you and lift you up. It's much easier to pull someone down the steps than it is to pull someone up the steps. I say that all the time. When I began to research this message, I found over 40 times in the New Testament where Jesus Christ walked away from toxic people, or he allowed them to walk away from him and didn't chase after them. There were a few toxic people in Jesus' life that he let hang around. But there was a reason for that. But he walked away from a lot of people that were toxic, and he let a lot of people walk away from him. There was a young man that said, Lord, I want to come follow you and live for you. And he said, well, sell everything that you have, take up your cross and follow me. And the young man left. He didn't run after him and say, okay, just sell 50% and then you can. No, he let him go. He was a toxic person. He knew that. He allowed him to leave. Matthew 7:6 says, give not that which is holy unto dogs. Neither cast your pearl before swine, lest they trample them under their feet and turn again and tear you apart. A pig cannot fathom and cannot understand or recognize the value and the beauty of a pearl. They can't appreciate the luster of that pearl, and so there's no use in putting a pearl necklace on a pig. They don't appreciate it. They can't understand it. Don't put your beauty and your goodness and the things that you're trying to do for God and for your life and for your children and for your family in front of pigs, because they don't understand it and they'll never appreciate it. Proverbs 9:7-8 warns that if you correct someone that's doing the wrong thing and mocks you, you're just inviting them to insult you. If you get on to them for what you're doing, they're just going to hate you. And that's Proverbs' way of saying, don't waste your time on toxic people. Labeling someone is not always a bad thing to do. Learning what they are and identifying what they are is not always a bad thing. Sometimes it allows you to help them, or it allows you to help yourself because of toxic people. It's not the same thing as name calling. Labeling seeks to help people to understand, and name calling seeks to slander them and to bring them down. And while acknowledging this need to use labels, we should do it very humbly. I will say that. We don't want to destroy people. For toxic people, just distracting you from your goal is a win for them. They've won something when they can distract you, because ultimately they will delay your progress. That's a win for them. One of the great stories in the Bible is about Nehemiah in chapter 6, and it talks about how he was repairing the wall around the city. And there was a group of men that didn't like what he was doing, and they said, hey, you need to come talk to us about that. And he said, I'm not going to do it. I'm building a wall. They told him again, you need to come talk to us. Second time, I'm not going to do it. Third time, I'm still not going to do it. Fourth time, the answer is still no, I'm not coming. Finally, they got a little bit more pressure on Nehemiah, and they began to pressure him and say, well, if you don't do it, the king's going to find out about it, and the king is going to send somebody because you're trying to subvert his power. He said, no, I'm still not going to do it. This is toxicity. You need to come and see me if you want to talk to me. They didn't do that. But because he did not bow to what they wanted, the Bible tells us that he completed that wall in about 52 days, I believe it was. And he said in 6 through 9 of chapter 6, he said, I sent to them a reply and said, nothing like what you're saying is actually happening. You're just making it up in your own minds. And he said they were all trying to frighten us, thinking that my hands would get too weak for the work and it will not get completed. But I prayed. Here's how he reacted to the toxic people that were trying to destroy the work he was doing. He said, I prayed, Lord, now strengthen my hands. Don't let the devil distract you. Just pray, Lord, strengthen me. Strengthen my hands. And begin to do the work and keep doing the work of good. Don't let people turn you aside. Don't let people tempt you. Get away from them if they're going to keep doing the things. They're not your friends. I told those people in jail this morning, if they are going to try and get you to do drugs or alcohol or whatever it is that got you in here, they're not your friend. Just pray, Lord, strengthen my hands. There are some people that you cannot be friends with. There just are. Many times the best way to defeat toxic people is just to ignore them while you complete the work they're trying to stop you from doing. It confounds them. Instead of trying to make toxic people satisfied with us, we should put our efforts into helping reliable people serve and do the right thing and worship God and live correctly and overcome and be victorious. The only control that you have over a toxic person is controlling how much toxin they put in you and they lay on you. You just limit their control. That's the only control that you have with a toxic person. Jesus dealt with toxic people all the time, and he walked away from them. He went to one city and delivered a man that had legions of demons. They ran out into a herd of swine, and that swine ran into the ocean and drowned. But the people came to him and said, we don't appreciate what you did to our pigs. They asked him to leave. He left. And nowhere in the Bible does it ever record that Jesus ever returned to that city. He told his disciples, if they don't accept you, wipe the dust from your feet and move on down the road. There are people that you just have to walk away from and not return to. He didn't view his mission in life as his purpose to stop people from sinning. Jesus didn't view that as his mission. He viewed his mission in life to come and die for a world that was lost. And he never let that mission slip from his mind and from the forefront of what he was trying to do. He had to die on a cross. And that was his mission, to come and be the Lamb of God for our sins. And he never let that slip, even though he had to deal with toxic people. One of the most toxic people that Jesus dealt with in the Bible was Judas. Jesus picked him. He knew Judas was a bad person. And yet he still picked him. He called him friend. He called Peter a devil, but he called Judas friend. He knew that Judas was a thief. When Judas told him, we could have sold that ointment that they put on your feet and helped a whole bunch of poor people. He knew Judas wasn't upset because they didn't help poor people. He knew that Judas wanted that money in that little basket that he carried around as a treasure so he could steal from that. He knew he was a thief. He said in his word that he was a thief. He knew that he would betray him. He even told him, he said, whatever you're going to do, friend, do it quickly. kept Judas around to the very end because Judas served a purpose. There are times when the people in your life that are toxic, you can't do anything about it. If you're working for someone and they're toxic, but you need that money to feed your family, you may not be able to walk away from that toxic person. You may not even be able to tell that toxic person to walk away from you. But you can learn to deal with the toxicity, and you can learn to control how much toxicity that they affect your life with. Jesus knew all along what Judas was going to do. But he dealt with him because he had to. There are some people that are toxic and you just can't do anything about it. But most people, you can either walk away from them or you can let them walk away from you and not worry about it. God didn't call us to be doormats, and God didn't call us to fix everybody's problems. Spouses, parents, children, you can't get rid of these people. But you can control how much and how toxic they are to you and to your life. Don't pretend that toxic people aren't toxic. Just learn a non-toxic way of interacting with them. And if you can't help them, allow them to walk away. You need to remember that to be God's friend is to be the enemy of his enemies. You also need to remember that every time you are a friend of God, you're going to be someone else's enemy. Someone's going to fight you over that.
That's true.
He said they persecuted me and they're going to persecute you.
That's true.
The only thing that is going to make the world stop hating you is when you agree with the world. And if they cannot condemn your actions, they're going to accuse your intentions. If you're truly a follower of Christ, you won't only speak his message. You won't only speak his message. You will also employ his methods. You can speak the message in love to people. I had somebody ask me today, just today. So, well, I don't understand if God is so loving and he is so nurturing, how can he hate people that are a certain way? And I said, you're getting confused. God doesn't hate anyone. God hates sin, but he doesn't hate the person who is the sinner. He died for the person that is the sinner.
Right. Amen. Right.
He doesn't hate the person. There was a man named John Climacus that I want to read to you what he wrote. He wrote, there are 3 stages that we must pass through as we learn to handle toxic behavior. The first stage is blessed patience. We have to learn not to let the toxic people redirect us and hinder us. The second stage is to be free from the pain of the first stage. And this speaks of spiritual maturity and is not easily gained. We have to deal with toxic people and to be hurt. But once we have gone through that, we begin to understand how to deal with their toxicity without being in pain from it. Most people will never get to that point because they will hold on to those offenses and they will be hurt by them. But if you're never treated viciously by toxic people, then you're not going to grow in your ability to face that toxicity without losing peace and joy and comfort. And that's so true. We have such thin skins and we shield ourselves from being offended and we don't, so many times that when people do something, we shut them out. Stage 3, he said, is the one that is called the perfect stage. This stage is to think of dishonor from a toxic person as praise. That seems a little bit weird, but he said, with a strong sense of mission, we can indeed see opposition as success. So how do we learn to be hated? We learn to hate what is happening to us, but at the same time love what is happening within us as we begin to learn what we are doing and what we are going through and how to deal with it. He said, when a man is just a private citizen or a sailor or a laborer on land, the enemies of the king do not take up arms against him. But when they see him accept the king's seal, the shield, the dagger, the sword, and the bow, the uniform of the soldier, then they gnash their teeth and they do all they can to destroy him. War against us is proof that we are making war. Another man put it this way: those who throw stones at you have deemed you worthy of being called a giant. Don't worry about it when people are upset with you and they're battling with you. Don't worry about it, because when you become a child of God and a spiritual warrior for the kingdom, the devil's going to throw everything he has at you. I told him today, if the devil's not fighting you, he's already got you. We have a saying among the ministers that I hang out with: if you can't feel the heat, you're not fighting hell hard enough. We must also remember that to become God's friend is to become someone else's enemy. We have to always keep that in our minds. People are gonna mock us. They're gonna scorn us. They're gonna be upset with us. But it doesn't matter. If we want to be victorious and we want to have a better life, we have to work at that. The devil's going to try every trick he has, including deception. We have to remember and keep in mind that when we're dealing with toxic people, there are sometimes no options where no one gets hurt. Sometimes somebody's going to get their feelings hurt when you have to deal with a toxic person. You can't hang out with those people that caused you to fall, because they're going to cause you to fall again. Get rid of them. We as Christians need to stop worrying about unhealthy fallout with people who are challenged by healthy decisions. We just need to make the healthy decisions and move on. When you're talking to someone who is toxic, talk to them as though they are spiritually healthy. And if they're offended by it, then that's on them, not you. If I talk to you as though you're spiritually healthy, and I tell you that what's happening around you and what's happening to you is wrong, and you're going down the wrong path, and you're doing the wrong thing, and you're offended by that, that's not on me, that's on you. Sometimes you have to just tell toxic people, I can't save you, but I can save me from you. I can save my family from you. I can save my children from you and from your influence. But you're always going to have to respect them, even when you oppose them, or you will become like them. We don't want to become toxic ourselves. You have to identify that toxicity. Toxic people will try to make the problem about you and how you're reacting to their toxicity, rather than their toxicity itself. Don't fall for that. Identify the toxin. If you know me, you know I love birds. And I used to have some Rio Grande wild turkeys, and I raised them from little tiny little turkeys up to big, huge gobblers. And I walked out in my backyard one day, and I had gobblers laying dead in my backyard everywhere. And I ran back in the house, and I told my wife, I said, I've got dead turkeys everywhere. My Rio Grande wild turkeys are laying out in the yard dead. It's almost like they've been poisoned. Did you do something? She goes, well, will ant poison hurt them? So yes, ant poison will hurt them. It was toxic. It immediately killed them. You can't go around toxicity without it affecting you at some point. Get rid of toxic people. We're going to have people in this church that come here, and some of those people are going to be toxic to you. They may not be toxic to someone else, but they may be toxic to you. Learn how to guard your soul. Learn how to guard yourself against that. In closing, I want to read you a little bit of scripture. Ephesians 5 and 7 through 11 says, Be ye not therefore partakers with them. For ye were sometimes in darkness, but now ye are in the light of the Lord. Walk as children of the light, for the fruit of the Spirit is in all goodness and righteousness and truth, proving what is acceptable unto God, and have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness. Don't have fellowship with them. Don't hang out with them. Don't invite them to your house. Don't give them your phone number. Don't give them your address. Protect yourself and your children. Protect your families. Protect your friends from these people. It says, and then see that you walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise people. In 2 Corinthians 6 and 14 through 18 it says, Be ye not unequally yoked together with unbelievers. For what fellowship hath righteousness with unrighteousness? And what communion hath light with darkness? If I walk over and turn that light off, it is immediately dark. But if I flip the switch on, it is immediately light. The darkness and the light do not mix. They don't have anything to do with each other. And when you begin to walk in the light of God, don't have anything to do with the darkness that you came from. It says, what concord or what fellowship hath Christ with Belial, or what part hath he that believeth with an infidel? And what agreement hath the temple of God with idols? For ye are as the temple of the living God. As God hath said, I will dwell in them and walk in them, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people. Wherefore come ye out from among them, and be separate, saith the Lord, and touch not the unclean thing. Don't go back to the vomit. The Bible talks about the dog returning to the vomit. Don't do that. When you walk away from it, walk away from it. It says, touch not the unclean thing, and I will receive you, and I will be a father unto you, and you shall be my sons and daughters, saith the Lord Almighty. And then finally, 2 Corinthians 7:1 says, having therefore these promises, dearly beloved, let us cleanse ourselves from all filthiness of the flesh and spirit, perfecting holiness in the fear of God. There comes a time when you have to say, you know what, enough is enough. If I'm going to change my life, I have to identify toxic people in my life, and I have to change those people and exchange those people for people that aren't toxic. If someone's going to bring you down, get rid of them and find someone else that's going to lift you up. Start making new friends. I told them today, I said, look, y'all are sitting around toxic people. Every one of you are surrounded by toxic people to you.
That's true.
Every one of you. And when you get out, you need to come to the church and you need to make new friends. You need to start going out to the breakfast with the men. You need to start going out to the dinners at the church. You need to start coming to the counseling session. You need to start making new friends with the men at the church, because I guarantee you, if they do something and try to tempt you when you walk out that door, I'm going to take care of it, and they're going to have to answer to me, and they aren't going to want to do that, because I will call them out. Come and make new friends. Make some new friends. Find some new people to hang out with. I promise you, it will be so much better in the long run for you. I am anticipating so many things that are happening in this church right now, and so many people that aren't here that are going to be here. That I'm just like, oh, I can't wait. But you're going to have to identify those that you are weak around. There are some people you can hang out with and be strong. But then there are some other people that you get around, and it's just like, there's a preacher that I used to hang out with a little bit, and my wife would be like, oh no, you and so when y'all get together, there's trouble. It wasn't bad trouble, and I still see him from time to time, but we don't live near each other. But it's like that. Sometimes there are people that are not bad people, but when you get with them, then you just kind of lose control. And you need to pick better friends. I'll just put it that way. Yeah. Somebody told me today, said, I'm a good person. You really don't understand. I said, look, I'm not judging you. There's a lot of people in here in the jail that are good people. You just make bad choices. But when you get around each other, you're toxic to each other. You feed off of each other's energy. I told us to go and make a list of all the people in your life. And all those people put a list of pros and cons. And if those people bring you down more than they lift you up, maybe you should start worrying about whether they're toxic to you or not. There's times when we are going to have to walk. Jesus did it, and we're no better than Jesus. If Jesus let people walk away from him, and he walked away from other people, we're no better than he is. There are going to be people that we have to walk away from, and there are going to be others that we have to let walk away. And I said sometimes that might even be the people that you are living with, the people that you think or you want to spend your life with. If they're toxic, they're not going to do anything but bring you down. Start building something in your life that is going to lift you up and lift up your family and lift up your children. I'm gonna crash land this plane here and just let you know that there is no reason to allow the devil to thwart what God's trying to do in your life. I had a young lady got upset with me this morning and over something trivial. Got upset with me this morning and walked out and said she's never going to speak to me again. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I can't control that. That's on you. I speak the truth. I didn't do anything to her. So that's not on me. That's on you. And if people want to walk away, let them. If they come back, try to help them, try to love them. But if they don't, they weren't your friend in the first place. They were an enemy in the first place. They were toxic. So let them go. Let's stand this morning. Lord, I love you this morning, Jesus. And I hope, my God, that someone